Any idea? Wasting time in politics sounds like that could be a strategy.
That could be a strategy, delaying their work, just throwing too much work at them and they can't get to the confirmation.
So, because when does their current session end?
Soon.
Because that would be, because if they don't go back into session prior to the election, then what a great way, because they all have to vote. Well, the Senate has to vote.
The Senate has to confirm, and so he's going to try to get her confirmed before they go home. Mm-hmm. So to distract from getting that process done, they're going to try to put something else ahead of it as an emergency and bury the Supreme Court thing. So great idea, Waylon. It's a total distraction from the real issue. It has nothing to do with the issue itself, and that's a brilliant strategy. If that's what you were getting at, I think that's really good. That's pretty smart.
It's definitely a definitely different perspective. I like it.
You saw it. Trump's own personal opinion was the one we talked about earlier, and that's what if Biden gets in, they just want to replace him with Harris. But then the provision isn't for the president being replaced by the vice president. That's not what the 25th Amendment is. If we remember, the 25th Amendment was to make sure we have a vice president.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, the big problem actually occurred when Garfield got deathly ill in 1881, and his vice president, Arthur, would not sign him off, would not say that he needed to take over. He actually left the White House empty for the 3 months that he was on his deathbed. When he finally died, then he took over. So that was one of the reasons they needed this anyway, but it actually came to fruition after Kennedy died.
Mm-hmm. And so did you do further research on that, on Lyndon B. Johnson's vice president? Did he not have a vice president for 4 years after he took over?
I think it was actually this Arthur.
That was the case with what year?
1881.
Okay, but so it was this 25th Amendment, though, that was written in 1965, was it not?
Right, and it was written and signed into or ratified. It was written and ratified in 67. It was 65, 66. Anyway, it was after Kennedy's death, and so they.
Of course, because that was 63.
Right.
Right.
Right. So it was basically a unanimous amendment because they had just witnessed Kennedy's death.
Yeah.
But they did not put anything in there about the vice president becoming ill. So they didn't have.
Well, that was already, the line of succession was already set already.
Right.
Right? That's Speaker of the House.
Right.
So
right.
Now there's the next theory.
Yeah, I don't.
No.
Yeah.
No, huh? What are you shaking your head for?
No.
I don't need her anywhere near the Oval Office. I mean, she's already closed.
No, as a theory, I know that you're opposed to the end result idea, but I'm asking about this theory. What do you think?
It has a leg to stand on.
Oh, yeah, 3 maybe, or 7 or 8.
Oh, let's get Biden in there and then Kamala, and then what I can do is I can take Biden out, and then I'll be vice president, and then oops, Kamala dies.
No, she doesn't have to be vice president. There will be that uniform body, that 17-member body that will then say to Kamala, who took over for the vice president, for the president,
that she's not.
Because remember, there's another clause in there. I don't know if you saw that, but they have to be duly elected, not appointed, or appointed by succession of death, which means that's why Ford. Remember, the first time he wasn't elected.
Right.
It was when the other guy left office, Agnew, left office as the vice president for Nixon, and it was Ford who was then just appointed by the president.
He wasn't duly elected until the next.
Yeah, so there's a little clause in there about that vice president not being able to do as much as what she's trying to tell us that can happen, because I think then she's trying to squeak her way from third to first. Like a little
survivor.
Or it could just be the fact that the deep state has convinced that side that that is the perfect plan to drive chaos and permanent power, because then they'll make all those states, right? All Guam and Puerto Rico and DC, they'll turn them into states, and they'll get all kinds of Democratic senators, and they'll
Why can't the
open the borders
Republicans
and
be
get all
their
those.
hero? Why can't the Republicans be Puerto Rico's hero? You know what I mean?
If I think if you had an honest media down there and you asked them and they knew the facts, I think anybody in the right mind would be pretty aligned with the values that I think that we're talking about.
I think so
Those
too.
values.
I think they're hardworking people, and
Free enterprise, wanting to build up the American dream. I mean, do you think they're opposed to the American dream?
no.
Well, the American dream is really more of a Republican idea than it is a Democratic idea. The Democratic idea is we won't prosecute you for breaking the law, getting over here, and we'll reward you.
Well,
I mean, that's a pretty
they're-
solid plan for people who don't care about
They're
any
currently
principles.
U.S. holding not
Territory?
Territory. They're
Yes.
they're a territory right now, as well as Virgin Islands.
Right.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So they are considered citizens, right?
Of the United States
Of the United
and
States.
its territories. U.S. and its territories.
Right.
So they already have
So-
citizenship.
Right.
Right?
It's just
Is that right?
statehood that
Okay.
they're looking for at this point.
Okay. So
But-
statehood is not what they want. Statehood is what the Democratic Party wants for them.
So if they are already citizens,
They have no senators or congressmen.
so they still have the right to vote, though. They still vote.
I've seen it.
Yes.
Okay, if they still vote, then the only thing is getting extra bodies in
The votes that count with the
the
laws.
laws.
And if you saw the bullet points that I saw with Karl Rove, you'll remember that the main thing they want to do is get rid of the filibuster, which means that a straight 50 votes could pass anything. 50
Yeah.
votes could pass any
Look,
law
they already
into...
did that for something, and that ruined
It
it.
was from, yeah. It was called the nuclear option, Harry
Right.
Reid, right. They did that and it backfired, and that's why President Trump has appointed nearly 300 new judges across the land in his first 3.5 years.
And he thanked Harry Reid for that.
He did, and he had right to. Wonder what ever happened to Harry Reid when he got, all beat up and busted up, and they said he just fell on his steps, remember that?
Yes.
He got attacked and got busted up like a gangster fight, like he lost the whole thing. Anyways, that's a little bit past the topic. So, Supreme Court was on the list of things to talk about too, and the Supreme Court is all about upholding the Constitution, right? So I guess we should kind of put those two subjects together.
Right? That
You
makes
know,
sense.
The 25th Amendment. First of all, maybe we need to go back to the 25th Amendment for a second. What person, who has the sole power to begin the process of invoking the 25th Amendment? Who's the only one person who has the sole power? Andy, I think you know that answer. And so does Matt.
Pretty sure I do.
Shane?
Should be the vice president.
The Vice
Correct.
President. The President of the Senate or the Vice President, right?
The vice president has to start it.
Right.
So, okay, so...
Or the president
I would say the
requests it
president
himself.
can request it, but
yeah, that's
Because of
actually a
the-
little different. That's the inability to uphold the duties of the office. The president has to say, I can't do it anymore.
yeah, because Reagan did it for 8 hours with George H.W.
Just for his colon surgery.
Right.
So then, yeah, and it's been done a few times in history. We could look that up, how many times in history that's been done. The other thing is that in order to actually invoke this 25th Amendment for the removal of the president, if he doesn't agree to it, has to be initiated by the vice president, right? So it all starts with the vice president, and they absolutely know Vevey on the other side, the ones they want to talk about this. I think she knows. There's no way the vice president's going to start this.
Right?
So is that what they call a publicity stunt or a political stunt? When you bring something up you know can't pass?
And that would
Aren't
be
you
why
wasting
people
people's
can.
time?
That's why people would tend to believe that it's because of. It's truly not about Trump. It's about the future. But why right now? I think Waylon had a good point because it's throwing chaos into the current legislative term.
Ah, very good. Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Waylon might be the closest one here. And I think I said that before. We must think a lot alike, Waylon, because I like that idea. When we first started getting these so-called hoaxes, red flag events, those kind of things, when we started getting those things, I was just really wondering what it was that they were trying to do to distract us from what was really going on. That was the main thing.
Right.
What is really going on while this bomb's going off? What's happening with that other bomb that's 900 feet away that's really killing people? I'm referring to a certain event there. But, so, what is the distraction and why? Well, perfect. Speaking of distractions, do you think that COVID was intentional and implemented as a distraction? Because there are people that think that.
You know, Pelosi made it sound like the reason people died from COVID is because Trump declared war on China. So, if you follow that line of thought, that means Pelosi believes that China let it out purposely.
And that it was a retaliation?
Right.
Because my opinion would be yes. I think it was intentional. I think it was an intentional stunt to make President Trump look bad because he can't quote unquote handle, or they say he can't handle things. And even in the debates briefly, they had mentioned how President Trump didn't do what he was supposed to do, even though he did shut down travel back and forth to China, and he started closing stuff up, going, nope, we're essentially shut down the country, which is what they did.
So, what I'm trying to think about is what was going on at that time. What was going on around January 24th or 21st when we got that first case in the United States? What was going on at that time? The whole world was wrapped up in what on a TV channel nobody's ever watched before.
The impeachment failed.
When
the impeachment failed.
And when did the Mueller report come
Come
out?
out.
Let's please check that. Can you check that, Miss Andrea?
Okay.
When did the Mueller report
And,
come out? Because it was
what
just
about-
before that.
What about the Pizzagate thing?
Let's not go that deep
I mean,
tonight.
but I'm wondering if that was around the same time too.
That goes way, way back, I think, Matt.
It does.
That's to 2016 or 17 that happened.
Right,
Or
is
no,
when it-
18.
well,
18 that happened.
I think it was 18.
So I was looking at.
Pizzagate. Yeah, Pizzagate was one error. It was an erroneous, little bit over-aggressive person who had a good imagination on what he thought was actually happening. Hang on a second. Sounds like we've got a caller. We're going to find out right now.
That was March 19th.
Hail Multimedia, this is Brian. Hey, Waylon.
Waylon.
You're here. Hey, you're on the air, okay?
Okay.
All right. You're on the air, brother. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. I realize you have an in-studio guest, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time.
Don't worry about it.
But you were asking what was going on when COVID first reared its ugly head.
Mm-hmm.